I brought it home from working at that festival, and I sat and looked at it for about 2 months. And then I got the idea. You got the dowel rod, you shave it down, you drill holes in it, put a part. Now see where this is tied at that end, I only took off about that much of it. And that left the rest of it intact, which made it easy for me to put a part in it and then sew it to the stick. That's not going anywhere. And this is a product of that. This one is not a ritual piece either. I carry this in festivals. I work as a storyteller. And the character that I work as a prince traveling in Europe during the Renaissance or during the medieval period. And of course, being a prince, I must represent. I must be better dressed than everybody else there because I'm a stranger from another country. I can't go around looking like a pauper. I'm representing my people. So I carry this. Now, I did skip over a piece, and I'm going to go back to it. This is a ritual piece called Ha. Yeah, Ha, H-A. No, not like ha-ha is funny, but Ha meaning broom. This is a ritual piece made for an Orisha called Babaluaye. Babalu got to be real popular back in the late 40s and early 50s. Yes, Desi Arnaz, Babalu, Babalu. Everybody thought he was singing about something in Spanish. Well, the song was in Spanish, but the song was about a Yoruba deity and the blessings that come. This deity deals with your health and your longevity and the fighting of disease. Priests of Babaluaye in Africa figured out how to inoculate people for smallpox, long before Europe knew how to inoculate people for smallpox. Folks were being inoculated in Africa using pretty much the same process. When my father was inoculated, they took the needle and they scraped his arm with it. When I was inoculated, they took the needle and they poked me with it numerous times. He had a scrape scar wound on his arm, and I have the pinpoint ones on mine. In the old country, it was done with a piece of shell. And they would take the pus from an old wound and scrape that into your arm. You'd get a mild case of smallpox, and then you'd be immune. Brilliant idea. Now, this represents cleaning yourself up from disease, and also it represents the ability to spread disease. When the French and the English invaded Yoruba land, the priests of Babaluaye spread smallpox. So germ warfare was not a new idea. And the English and the French didn't much care for that foolishness. But there wasn't much that they could do. This is a seed pod from a tree, the Royal Poinciana tree. In Spanish, it's called framboyan. This is used as a rattle for the Orisha Oya. Ordinarily, they are not beaded. But I figured since I was going to be doing presentations about beadwork, go ahead on and bead one, man. What's the problem? So I did. Now, it makes it quieter. This one is much louder. But this one looks good. This fan is for an Orisha named Oshun. Oshun deals with beauty and culture and refinement. It's not one that you want to stand around fanning yourself with because it's really quite heavy. But it does look good, and it does decorate her shrine in my home. These are drums. I just saw a Scooby moment. Huh? These are called drums because you thump the bottom and get a tone. It is a rattle as well, but the tone on the bottom is really more important than the rattle sound. And they are played in sets of 3, so you got a boom, 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 boom. Each one has their own pattern, and each one is used to make the music. I'm not going to play this one right now because it's really very loud, but I will play this one.
Thank you, Temujin, for sharing those beautiful artifacts with us. I'm just curious, how long does it take to create something like that? I'm sure the time varies from one piece to another, but give us a sense of what goes into the making of those kinds of artifacts.
Well, for pieces like, well, any of these pieces, I have to bead a strand first. Like for this, there are 4 separate strands that are beaded that are then coiled and then connected. And it may take anywhere from 3 to 4 hours to bead a strand, depending on how complicated it is. I can, if I don't have anything else happening, I can do the basic bead work on one of these in a day. If I don't have any shows and nothing else to distract me, and I just sit down and work, I can do the basic bead work and the connections in a day. The slow part is putting these parts together because there's no quick way to do it. If it's really fancy and I've got a lot of big beads in it, I can only work one strand at a time. When I do these, I can start at the ends and go towards the middle. So when I can only work one strand at a time, it takes longer. When I can work both ends towards the middle, it takes less time. So anywhere from a day to finish a piece, I think I did this one in about a day and a half. I was in a hurry. And I was putting it together for the show that was done at the Center for the Arts, so I had to move quickly. And I did all of the artifacts that were to go in that show in less than a month. I was on a deadline.
Hi, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. My name is Cecilia Springer, and I live right here in Pittsburgh. And I'm delighted that we've had this experience today. You not only have talent and patience, but I think the aspect of the religion that I really admire so much is the ethical part. And I wonder how we could share more of that philosophy, the tempo, with children particularly, who need to have an idea of where they're coming from and where they need to go.
I get a chance to do that a lot more when I'm working as a storyteller. I know that in many ways I have to be careful because folks are a little antsy about having someone else express their religious views to their children. And I don't want people to think that I'm trying to convert anyone, because I'm not. But there are things in the religion that do speak to matters of common sense. There's a divination verse that talks about the people were hungry, and they went to the priesthood to ask for help. And the priest did divination, said, now I want you to go get your hoes and your machetes, and go out there and clear that field and plant a crop, because if you don't work, you don't eat. Plain and simple. If you don't work, you don't eat. And then pray. Don't sit around praying, waiting for something to happen. Get up off your butt, go do some work, and then pray. This is common sense. If you're sitting, you don't have a job, and you're sitting in the house waiting for one to come, it's not going to come. If you don't have any skills with which you can get a job, then you have to go out and get some training and get a job. But if you sit in the house and wait for it to come, it'll never come. So I tell stories like that to the young people. They mumble and they grumble, they don't want to hear it, but that doesn't stop me. And hopefully, in the process of doing that, I encourage them to, you have to take hold of your life. If you don't take hold of your life, then if your life doesn't go the way you want it to, it's nobody's fault but yours.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. My name is Raymond Ratliff. I'm from the Pittsburgh area, and I have a fondness for percussion instruments. My question is about the gourd instruments, the drums. Mm-hmm. Could you tell me how long it takes to make one of those and what its purpose is in your religion?
Well, depending on the size of the gourd, it can take, well, this one took me 4 days. And that was from the process of cutting the top off of the gourd, cleaning out all the seeds and pulp inside, sanding down and smoothing the outside of this because it was covered with dirt and scale from having grown in a garden somewhere. I then rubbed it down with oil, let the oil soak in, and then started the beadwork. And of course, that's a slower process because you can only put one bead on a strand at a time. If you look at it, it's really just basically macrame. And I decided to use this as the top to hold it. I had never seen anyone use a strand of cowrie shell to hold the net. But I got the idea, and I had the shells, and I thought, why not? And I went ahead on and did it. But I was able to do this from start to finish in 4 days. But that's because I had no other constraints on me. And I could work late into the night. I could wake up in the middle of the night and go to work on it. Otherwise, it could take a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, depending on your time span. What it's used for is when the ritual drumming is happening, you'll have at least one of these and a bell and a drum. Those three things come together to make the music that is sung in the ritual. That song that I sang at the beginning, one of these would be playing either a rhythm like this, or that rhythm's going, and while that one's going. So it's not just an accompaniment, it's as important a part of the music as the drum is. It's part of the ensemble. You can't, if you have an orchestra, no other part of the orchestra is less important than the other parts. They all come together to make the whole. It's like our body. The eyes are not less important than the brain is not less important than the stomach is not less important than the feet. They all come together to make a whole body. And whenever one of them is not working well, then the body ain't happy. And when the body ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Well, thank you, Temujin. We have learned so much from you, and I'm wondering if you could leave us with a final thought.
Final thought. Life is short. Death goes on for eternity. That being true, while we have the life and health that we have, we should do everything we can to enjoy this life, to learn everything we can, to do everything we can, to teach other people what we know so that it can be passed on, because if you don't teach them, they're not going to know. So it's incumbent upon each one to teach one so that the world we live in will be a better place than it was once we got here. And I think that's an important thing for anybody to think about and remember, whether they're a Christian or a Buddhist or a Muslim or don't believe in God at all.
I don't think anyone could have said it any better than that. Thank you so much to Temujin Ekunfeyo, to our wonderful audience, and to our host, the Society for Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh. Make sure that you tune in for all of our shows. If you'd like more information, go to the website pahumanities.org, and remember that Humanities on the Road is a joint project. It is a collaboration between the Pennsylvania Humanities Council and the Pennsylvania Cable Network. We hope you've enjoyed our program. We've learned so much from Temujin Ekunfeyo. I'm Tracy Matisak. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time.